Yep, hear you just fine.
We hear you. You're fine.
Okay.
Hi, Yvette.
Phil's got a furry friend.
Yes, he likes the furry friend.
Hello, Phil.
I think it's 2:00. Do we have enough people here to begin our meeting, Peggy? Or you want to wait a minute?
Well, let's wait for Alan.
Peggy, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, you can. Okay. Because I couldn't get the volume loud enough without wearing the headphones.
Can you pull your screen down? Because we're
I
getting.
only see half your face.
There we go.
Alan.
Perfect.
Okay, there we are.
So it's Alan.
All right, good.
It was a good hit.
Yeah, I thought half was enough. But...
Can I have a personal message for Phil. Can I talk to him for a second before we get started?
Well, why don't you
And it's not really personal. It just has to do with his book that I was supposed to do a review on.
okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm having a hard time. I sent you what I was going to put in there, and
Yes.
Amazon sent it back to me and said that you cannot put that up there, and they won't give me an answer why I can't do it.
A lot.
I can't hear you.
A lot of us have situations.
Do it.
It's unfortunate.
You're breaking up, Phil. Can you get closer to whatever you're talking to?
Denise, you can't
Look,
do it.
I wanted to say,
Didn't buy
Dean,
the book
we all
on
have
Amazon.
weird situation. I've been kicked out of several reviews I've tried to do for the club, so we keep trying.
Oh, okay. It's just so weird.
I know.
And I've tried sending them an email asking them why, and nobody responds to me, but I'll keep at it.
It's because you didn't buy the book
Oh,
on
you should. Well,
Amazon.
I
I
don't know.
don't think that even matters. You can make a
It
review.
does.
It does?
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
Don't know.
I've had that experience where I bought the book. I could do it. If I didn't buy the book, they didn't like it. What I did in one of them is I just attached my comment to somebody else's comment, and then it let me do it. But it wouldn't let me do it if I didn't buy it.
All right. Well, I'll try to do it that way.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Don't fall out of the chair, Phil.
He's falling out.
Shouldn't have bought the $11 shares.
So let's start. Should we start with Nancy announcing our Village Stories team?
Well, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Yes. Hi, everybody. You know what happens when you're the newest member of a club, you get put in charge of something. So I sort of volunteered to help Marcia, and found myself as the co-chair with Marcia Hackett of the Village Stories 2021 committee. And I'm very delighted to be part of this committee. So what I'd like to do is introduce all of the committee members. And so just wave your hand when I say your name. The other members of our committee are Marcia Hackett, co-chair, Peggy Edwards, president, publisher extraordinaire, Sunshine Luty, phenomenal photographer, Phil Silverman, and webmaster, Google Docs expert who's not here, Billy. How do you pronounce his last name?
Theme.
Theme, like Theme, but it's Thieme. Okay, and Billy is Peggy's nephew. And Peggy, do I have it correct that he is the webmaster for this club?
Yes, he is.
And he is a whiz and has really been helping us a lot as we've been navigating through Google Drive and Google Docs. So we've already begun the process of collecting, filing, and setting up the editing process for the Village Stories 2021. Thank you to those of you who have submitted stories already, stories or poems. I believe we have 4 submissions. And within the next few days, you will receive an email from the new Village Publishing Club email address. And that is Laguna Woods Publishing Club at gmail.com. So when you see that come in, that is from the committee, and it will explain the specifications for the submissions for this year's Village Stories. So we've got some very specific instructions for you when you do submit your stories, so please follow those carefully. And it will make our job a lot easier, and we would appreciate that. We're very excited to have had our Village Stories 2020 published in the Globe. I believe it was last week or the week before. And thank you so much to Sunshine and Peggy for making that possible. We made the front page. So we were very, very excited. And we look forward to publishing an even better Village Stories 2021.
Nancy, I have a question.
Who's talking? Oh, there you are. Okay. Yes.
Jerry, sure. When you send out your email, will you indicate what limits there are in terms of words or pages?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes. And just so that you know, it will be 25,000 words.
2,500.
2,500.
2,500, sorry, 2,500, yeah, not 25,000, 2,500 words total per author. So if you are submitting 4 pieces, it's going to be a total combined number of words, 2,500. Any other questions I can answer right off the bat? Well, certainly when you get your email, if you have questions, don't hesitate to just reply and we will be happy to answer those. Okay.
Thank you, Nancy. What a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Nancy, for taking charge. You're very brave.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Alan, Alan's going to tell us about his publishing adventures. I don't see him. Alan, step forward.
Okay, can you see me now?
Yeah.
And you can hear me?
Yep.
All right, well, I can, you want to know my successes and failures. Well, the failures are many, but it's hard to measure success. It's a very relative term. In terms of sales, you know, there's no success whatsoever. It's never going to make me any money. I hope it does for many of you. But the success, as far as I'm concerned, is from being a total amateur. I have managed to publish a couple of books thanks to being a member of the club. And I'm about to publish the 3rd one, which is actually a full-length novel. That really was the objective, I guess, going way back many years, where I had many attempts to write a novel, but always found it much too challenging. But this year I finally got around to it. But let me start with the a couple of the earlier ones before I get into the current one. The first book I published with you guys was Phone Man. That's my memoir. Can you see that there?
Yes.
Yes.
Back up. Yeah. And that's a story that pretty much starts with the going way back to the beginning of my life, right up to the time when I moved to Laguna Woods. To better understand it, I could maybe read a little bit out of the foreword. Is that all right?
Of
How
course.
much time do I have here, by the way?
Let's say 20 minutes.
20 minutes? Well,
Yeah.
that's probably plenty. In the foreword, I say, I'm just going to grab a couple of, maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs out of the short beginning. It's a story of change humorously woven into the telecom revolution that shaped the world we live in. Old industries and technologies fell by the wayside, along with many of us who worked within it. The revolution changed the way we consumers think, act, and how we spend our money. It changed the way we raise our children, how we learn, what serves as entertainment, and even the way we communicate. It's a part 1, 2, 3, 4 book. So part 3, describe a little bit as part 3 will take you into the greatest technological leaps in history. It's a ride that takes you to the peak of the dot-com bubble and the crash that took down the entire industry that got us there. This is a story of survival in the midst of competing monolithic entities. In conclusion on the thing, I state, I didn't choose telecommunications as my life's work. It chose me. Phone Man is only one man's story within this vast industry. If you were lucky enough to have made the same choice, you should enjoy reading about another's experience and conclusions. If you chose something else, this is your opportunity to learn what went on behind, at least, wait a minute now. If you chose something else, it's your opportunity to learn what went on behind the dial tone. In fact, even if you never worked a day in your life, but at least you at some point used the telephone, you should read this book. If you do, you will know what happened. If you don't read this book, then read another. If you don't read anything, those who own the technologies of this century will own your mind. It's called the information age, information that has little to do with books. The only reason I like that part at this point is that when we look at today and the amount of conspiracy theories and the influence of the internet and social media, I think it's just staggering. And this, of course, came from the revolution that I'm talking about at that point. The book has a lot of pictures, family pictures. You can see that. It's got, maybe you can't see those, but it has a lot of pictures in it, but it goes through a period of over 50 years, and it's fairly inclusive, I think. It's not, I don't think, self-serving the way so many autobiographies are. In many ways, I think I'm pretty critical of myself. After having done that, my stepdaughter had a cat and deer story that was nothing sensational, but was cute and interesting. So it inspired me to write about her cat. This is the children's book. You can read that. It's Gunnar and the Deer. It has a lot of cute little pictures in it. All the paintings are done by my wife, and a lot of the sketches are done by me. You can see them. It's something I think that 8, 9, 10-year-olds would enjoy. Let's see if I got a forward here. I think I do. Let's just go to the back page. The oil painting, or watercolor rather, by my wife there, and Gunnar and the Deer, a cat and mouse tale. Gunnar is a fat cat that lives a life of leisure. One day he discovers there's more to life outside than he realized. A chance meeting with an injured deer leads to an extraordinary friendship. Gunnar learns the value of trust, respect, and love among different creatures, and this changes him for the better. This tale of a cat and mouse and a deer is about life as it is, and also how it could be. Animals can always teach us something, and Gunnar and the deer shows us the benefit of getting along, never mind who we are or where we come from. That brings me to how I got to the novel. The novel started as a short story. I got through part 1, then went on to part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. At some point along the way, I decided that it was going to be a novel. I would just pull them all together. At that point, I thought it was a good idea of having Kindle, having part 1 published as a Kindle book, then part 2 come along, another of the series, in a way of, I guess, creating interest along the way before actually reaching the point where I was at the novel stage. And that might, in some way, help sales of the novel. I don't know if that's true or not, but at least when I got to that point, I took down all the Kindle books 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and now I'm just going to put it up as a single book, which is the novel itself. It's a story by there's a unknown writer, let's say a young writer who chases a New York homicide detective until he gets him to sit down and start relating some stories to him. And each part of the story, parts 1, instead of books 1, 2, 3, and 5 in the novel, it's parts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So at each part of the story, he starts out introducing that part of the story, and at the end, with another conversation with the detective, they wrap up that part of it and move on to the next one. The totally fictitious murders and other activity that go on are sort of overriding the history of the past 4 years. So there's a lot of politics involved in it too, and I hope that doesn't offend too many people. But it provides a basis for the thing, because Pat Gunn unwillingly gets pulled into a lot of politics that he hates to begin with. But the fallout of what's happening, words and actions and things that are coming out of Washington, causes things to drop on his lap in New York, and so he does get involved in many things where I really spin it off into the fiction part of the stories. I guess I got a bit of time to read a bit. Let me read the introduction to it. Now, let me also say here that I started out calling the Kindle parts, or books 1, 2, 3, and 4, America, well, with a K instead of a C, indicating Russian influence. I dropped that, and the title of the book is America 2020, indicating that it starts out in relatively 2017 and wraps up in 2020. Introduction. This is a tale many will declare unbelievable. Others will imagine it more believable than what surrounds them. It is also a human story with enough love and humor to make you laugh and cry. Mostly, though, it's a lesson in what can happen when autocracy gets confused with democracy. Who better to tell it than Detective Pat Gunn? He often says words matter. and he should know, having taken down a Russian oligarch's pedophile business using immigrant children. After that, he has to rescue his partner from the mob. Later, while solving a murder, they clash with the CIA over a whistleblower's appearance. Impeachment is on the table, but that's only the beginning of their distress. A Texas bounty hunter's arrival coincides with a pandemic virus to set the death toll skyrocketing. These are perilous times. Even contrived election interference by kidnapping or a plot to assassinate the leader of the free world pales in comparison to what historians will be left with. Pat Gunnar and his partner often face death head on before closing the file in the end, but he knows better. Nothing ever ends. There are only beginnings. Some of you may have read the Bounty Hunter in the Village Stories. That's my 2,500 page submission, I guess, for last year. I could tell you what happened, read a part, but I don't want to read anything that's too long here. I'll read rather than dealing with the way the bounty hunter ends up his experience in New York, because he comes from Texas, and how he happens to go back, which is a pretty exciting little story. But anyway, during part of the year of the 2020 election, there's a story that I have with one of the characters that has to let's see. Let me just cut in on it. You can pick it up just so that you can see if you like the writing or not. Having kept his distance, Jack Martin was never suspected of being involved in the kidnapping of Gunther Bishop. By being so, he had no idea that Gus and Clyde had not survived, other than that they hadn't acknowledged any of his calls. Did they escape? Were they captured? Was he in danger if they were? Yes. They were the only link to him, assuming they capped Dago as planned. If they hadn't, Billy Baranoff would probably cut loose from Jack Martin, or possibly worse. Martin was relieved to receive a text from Gus. It read, "Gus here. We need to talk where we can meet." Thing is, this isn't Gus. Gus is dead at this point. It's Dago trying to find him so he can get revenge. Anyway, he sent him a quick response. "Where are you? I've been trying to call you." This stuff was unfamiliar to Dago. Thinking, planning, taking the fight to the other guy rather than playing defense was not his thing. He spent too many years going along with someone else's plan. He didn't even expect an answer to his text. Now he was thinking in real time, where every decision was a question of life or death. He couldn't tell Martin where he was or what he'd done. Martin had been calling Clyde while fighting with Gus over a cop he was about to shoot. Then Gus was about to shoot Dago, but another cop got him first. What a screw up. How would that go with Martin? Not well. Dago would stick to texting, difficult as it was. He laboriously repeated the same message with a location that had just occurred to him. Need to talk. Meet on stage at abandoned Lowe's 46th Street Theater in Brooklyn. Midnight. Bring dollars. Still owed. Clyde can't make it. Come alone. I'll leave the stage door unlocked. Would Martin take the bait? He answered, "Sorry to hear about Clyde. Good choice on where to meet. Just the two of us. Don't worry about dollars. See you at midnight." The hook was set. Now Dago had to land him. He knew the theater inside out. It first opened over 90 years ago and had an amazing run of playing live to hundreds of thousands before shutting down 46 years later. And that was 45 years before Dago was even born. At some point during his childhood, the Playhouse became his theater. Many times over the past 40 years, he acted out his own imaginary performances in a dust-ridden house full of empty seats given way to mold and rats. Here was a place he could be himself without fear of judgment. Tonight would be his greatest performance. Martin's plan was similar. He too intended to bait, hook, and land his opponent. Dago put the AK-47 in a gym bag and took a taxi to arrive early. The stage door was locked, but he had his own way of entering from the alley. He climbed the rickety fire escape, clinging unsteadily to the brick-sided wall. The balcony exit was locked. Dago had figured out long ago how to jimmy the rusted frame away from the lock bolt. With a cell light, he made his way through the cluster to the staircase and down to the backstage electrical room. He knew the right switches to activate enough light to suit his purpose. They sputtered a few complaints before issuing an annoying buzz from ancient mercury lamps barely illuminating the stage. He moved a heavy 3x6 crossbar and unlocked the stage door before entering to the balcony to wait. Jack Martin was born to be an actor. His self-confidence was unwavering, and he knew what had to be done. Whatever happened at the cabin, Gus Bodine and Clyde McCoy had failed to stop Bishop's campaign, yet he was sure they were capable of eliminating Dago. It sounded as if Clyde had been a casualty. Now he'd have to eliminate Gus. Doing so in the theater was inspirational for a born actor like Martin. He arrived at midnight and found the stage door unlocked. He quietly entered. Using the cell light, he made his way through the backstage rubble. The dimly lit stage was too bright for his liking, considering the darkened auditorium. Gus would pick him off like a duck in a shooting gallery. But then he thought Gus may not suspect a thing. He'd have to take a chance. Still, he hesitated behind dusty curtains to observe the empty darkness. Minutes passed until he stepped out in full view, projecting a good nature he never felt. He shouted, "Gus, my main man, where are you?" It bounced around the theater as a burst of thunder. Dago took advantage of the acoustics to disguise his voice. He answered in the manner of someone accustomed to pushing people around. "Center stage, Jack. I'll meet you there." It sounded distant, and so shouted from an empty well. Martin looked at all directions but could see nothing. Playing a man with nothing to hide, he slowly strode to center stage. "Okay, Gus, enough play acting. I have the money. Let's get this business over with." Dago nervously figured the AK-47 trigger while lining up the sights up on Martin. He should have rehearsed this at a shooting range. He'd never been in the military or shot real weapons of war before. He should have at least refilled the clip. How accurate were these damn things? He feared he would miss. At the same time, just killing Martin was not enough. He had to know it was Dago Magadino who was killing him, not Gus Bodine. Dago wanted top billing. He wanted to show what a real mob guy could do. He shouted back, "That's perfect, Jack. Stay where you are. Sorry, but Gus couldn't make it. He didn't break a leg. But the last time I saw him, his head was half blown away. You'll have to deal with a stand-in." "Stand-in? What the hell are you talking about? Who are you?" Dago stifled the self-satisfying smile that every actor must control while delivering their most dramatic line. He puffed up his voice and shouted, on this stage, Jack. No, on this stage, I'm known as Dago the Great. You may remember me as Dago the Patsy." His AK-47 front sights were doing a dance all over Martin's chest, unable to stay on target. Martin palmed his gun behind his back. He shielded his eyes to pierce into the darkness of the theater. "Dago," he shouted, "I'm glad you made it, man. Come on down, we'll talk about Gus's money." Dago didn't need Martin to give him Gus's money. He'd take it off Martin's cold, dead hands. "Sure, Jack, coming right down." He crushed the trigger, releasing a staccato of noise, tossing lead all over the stage near Martin until empty, but never on target. It took a second for Martin to realize he wasn't hit. He ran deeper into the stage, looking for an exit through decaying curtains, resisting his grip. Giving up, he dove underneath them, followed by an empty AK-47 hurled from the balcony. A spiral staircase was visible enough to make a dash for. He climbed to the scaffold and waited. Dago scrambled to catch Martin before he could escape. Reaching the stage, he hoped to cut Martin off from the stage door. Instead, he heard footsteps on a runway above. Martin must have used the right staircase, so he took the left. Before reaching the top, a sharp report sent sparks flashing off the handrail. Gus returned 5 rounds from Gus's Glock, then ducked. down, hoping to hear a body hit the stage. Martin laughed from the darkness. Where did you learn to shoot, Dago? On a video game? Dago knew he was up against a pro. He was scared, but this was his theater, and he had a few tricks of his own. He reached a ladder that took him to a level where ropes and sandbags teetered. A narrowing catwalk took him closer to where Martin strained to hear or see signs of him. Another shot flew past Dago's head to cut a rope, dropping a sandbag to the stage. Dago discharged the Glock in the direction of the flash. He heard a cry of pain and ran in that direction. Martin was just winged. He shot again, causing Dago to trip on the catwalk and fall near him, narrowly missing the scaffold. Dago jumped up before he could fire. Another round. Close combat was Dago's advantage. He grappled for the gun as Martin lost his grip on it. It fell to the stage. They continued fighting like savages on the narrow metal runway until it gave way from years of rust. They both fell, but Dago grabbed the handrail as it swung from where it tore loose towards the staircase. He clung to it while Martin hit the stage with the indifference of another sandbag. Silence fell over the auditorium. Backstage, Dago's wheezing breath could be heard over the sound of scampering rats. Moments later, he found his footing to make his first appearance at center stage. He poked Martin with a foot, wondering if he survived the fall. His neck was at an awkward angle with blood spilling from his mouth. With one eye barely open, he choked, Dago, what went wrong? You used me, Jack, just like everybody else. You needed a patsy to kill Bishop, but you picked the wrong guy. No, not that. What happened to Bodine and McCoy? You tell me, because you're about to join them. He bent down to search him. Another identification and cell phone would come in handy. There was no payoff, Wad. Obviously, he intended to kill Gus Bodine, just like he planned to have Dago killed at the cabin. Martin made a desperate reach for Dago's empty gun. Seizing it from his belt, he pointed and pulled the trigger, but nothing happened. Dago laughed, the last laugh of a dramatic scene more comic than tragic. He launched a fist into Martin's jaw. The sharp snap was heard, confirming his death. Dago dragged him to the mechanically run stage door, then went to the lever to open it. Someday Martin would be remembered by whatever the rats left to identify him by. There would be no notable billing for a man who remained anonymous.
I muted everyone while you were reading.
Yep.
So
My time's
if
up.
people want to unmute, do so.
Oh, okay.
You know, I read Phone Book. You're from Canada, right, Alan?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
You're from Canada? Because Phone Book takes place in Canada for part of it, right? It's a good story. Can you understand me?
Well, I'm not sure what you're saying, Peg.
Well, I'm trying to say.
Phone Book is totally different. That was my life story. This is.
Right. So I'm trying to say you're originally from north of the United States or Canada, yes. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Your experiences in both Canada and the United States.
Yeah. Well, in terms of, you're wondering why I'd write about New York or what? I mean, I 50-year telecommunications career. I traveled all over North America, so I spent time in New York and many other cities all over the place.
Right. Very interesting. Yeah. Your experiences as an outlander, I guess, is what you would call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, good story. And I want to get Gunnar and the deer because I've got some step grandchildren. But nice job, Alan. Now, those of you that took partners in December, would any of you like to comment? Like, for example, Denise. Hello.
Yes, I was on mute. I thought it was really good. I mean, I enjoyed just it kept me interested. So
Phil's book, right?
oh yes. Oh, and Phil's book. Yes, yes, that one too. I was talking about Alan says he was reading that part, but yeah, I like Phil's book, and it's like it's a bummer that I couldn't do my post for him. In fact, my husband read it too, so we were both going to put a review on there.
So what was your review, Denise?
Let's see. I have it written down.
Yeah, cool.
Pull that up. I put The Boomerang Twice is a fun, whimsical, fast, entertaining read, reminiscing with Phil and Cheryl about TV shows and comedy legends now gone was delightful. The large print was a nice change and quite enjoyable to read. Phil and Cheryl's style of writing is fast-paced, much like the comics of yesteryear. I especially enjoyed their Black Kid and the Pussycat and their original jokes. Thank you for sharing the memories. Knock, knock, knock.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry I can't get it on there. I mean, if I have to buy the book, I mean, I'll go buy the book if that's the problem.
I think that's what you got to do.
It's just crazy. And then I thought, well, is it because I used Black Kid and Pussycat? Maybe they took offense for those words. I don't know. It was in his book. It was his title of a chapter.
No, I tried to review Village Stories 2020 and couldn't. So I bought it and reviewed it. Yeah.
Peggy,
Yes.
I have a couple of questions for Alan about his books. May I ask them now?
Of course, please.
Alan, first with your memoir, in terms of your choice of putting in those photos, what was the intention that you had with the memoir? Was it meant to be something written for your family or extended family, or were you looking to have a broader market with it? I'm just thinking now in terms of putting in those photos.
Yeah, it largely was for not my children necessarily, but my grandchildren who probably will at some point, and even great grandchildren at this point. I mean, you know, they're very young right now, but I hope that if they ever, I mean, how often can you find out everything about your great grandfather? I mean, a lot of people are interested in genealogy, but they can get birth dates and where they died, but not a heck of a lot more. At least I thought my kids will know, for better or worse, what kind of a rascal I was.
Well, I applaud you for that, because quite frankly, I know virtually nothing beyond my grandparents' generation. Yeah. And so, you know, that's laudable what you've done. Just turning to your novel for a moment, since one of the main characters is a homicide detective, I guess, yeah, based in New York City, did you interview any homicide detectives, or do you have any homicide detectives in your family? How did you come about to picking that character and then developing, I guess you would call it the technical know-how associated with that character? Yeah.
There's no knowledge whatsoever. I don't know any cops, thank God. But I guess a lot of people say they don't read fiction. I only read nonfiction, can't stand fiction, blah blah blah. I think they miss a lot by not reading fiction. I think you could learn an awful lot about life, and maybe a heck of a lot more about truth than you can in a lot of the history that's written. So I read a lot of fiction, and I enjoy books about detectives, trial stories, lawyer stories, and adventure stories, thrillers. I don't go in for science fiction or anything like that, but if it's related to historical novels or romantic historical things and so on. They're good stories.
Peg,
I have a question.
yeah, sure.
I didn't hear the title of the book, and is it already published or it's going to be published?
Yeah, it's going to be published. The title is America 2020.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And
Yeah, Peg. Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, I found the writing very atmospheric and very reminiscent in a great way of the better American TV dramas with detectives and cops. Like I really loved Columbo and The Streets of San Francisco. Did you ever watch any of these shows? Do you think they had any, with your background, you could look at it from a much more professional standpoint? Do you find they had plausibility, believability? I thought Columbo was a little surreal, but it just thought a lot of the stuff was very entertaining and actually engrossing. Did you have any favorites from the 70s, 80s when those shows were in their heyday?
Absolutely. Columbo is one. I still watch Columbo movies.
They're so great.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I enjoy them. Yeah, even a lot of them I vaguely remember seeing them 20, 30 years ago or 40 years ago. I don't know, but yeah, they're good. And that's sort of others. I don't know, but my mind's kind of a blank now of authors' names. But oh gee. Anyway, there's what is it? Michael McConnell. He's a terrific writer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but the author of maybe you've heard of what is it? The Lincoln. No.
Bosch.
Huh?
Bosch is another besides Lincoln Lawyer.
Yeah, Bosch. Yeah, Lincoln Lawyer and Bosch. His last book, which I just finished recently, was he combined the two of them. Bosch and the Lincoln Lawyer were I guess half brothers, and so they kind of got together in this last story.
That's cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you see Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I watched that entire thing. Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
And
Good.
Yeah, Michael, you got a question? Looks like.
Yeah, I just wondered. One of the things that has occurred to me is there has been always action in novels, and I think the way action was described in novels before there were movies and television was different than the way action is described today. And the degree to which movies and television have affected the literary way of describing action. I mean, and it's just something I'm wrestling with and thinking about myself. But I think that there has been a change. I think it's almost impossible to write something today, an action scene, without being influenced by the way you might see it play out in a movie or on television. That's all.
True. Yeah. Not easy. Does anyone else have comments on their partner? Remember, we chose partners, or I chose them for you in December. Anybody?
Yeah. I'm working with Dr. Dickerson on a movie screenplay, and it's
Professor?
a little Professor. What did I say? Dr. Professor. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mr. Dickerson, it's really terrific detail, but I had some suggestions. I really think it would work much better as a stage play. And there's one discuss with the Boom about it, but it's very interesting. I would like him to scale it down a little bit. And we're working together. I had a little lull for 2 weeks, and now I'm back on it, and I'm lining things out with happy faces and question marks and things like that. But he's a great writer.
Yeah,
Bill. It's Charlie O'Brien.
Yeah,
Charlie O'Brien.
Billy's got a website for him. Billy for Professor Allen.
Great.
In fact, I helped him with a book he wrote on one of the platters. Fascinating, but he's prolific. Professor Allen's prolific. He's written so many books. Yeah. He was our speaker once. So if no one else has comments, I'll comment on Harold Lee's book, Tibet Express. Harold's amazing. He's like a step ahead of society. He wrote in about CRISPR in The Cost of Peace, I think it was, about gene splicing. And that was before any of us knew about it. Of course, Harold is a biologist, but this Tibet Express, you gotta read it because it's a cyber world thing.
Gotta get it.
Yeah. Did you read it?
Yeah. I will.
Yeah, it's about this hacking by China and Russia and Singapore and drones. It's like so interesting. Like, for example, in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, they tried to, for patriotic reasons, get the people to learn Chinese, but they couldn't because all the science books are written in English. So they had to continue teaching in English if they want their population to be educated in the present. It's very interesting book, See the Drones.
And that's available on Amazon, of course, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, read it.
Mm-hmm.
He's got this cyber hacking stuff down. In fact, the government ought to hire him. But anyone else?
Doug up there.
Yeah, he also wrote Hong Kong Boy, and it's about his experience coming to the United States as a person from China and all the racism and discrimination. And that's happening again. That's so sad. So again,
Douglas has did you have a comment? Because you were waving your hand.
Yeah, if you're finished, Peggy, I was just going to comment on Noreen's manuscript that I read.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's a memoir and traces her background from New York. Her mother died when she was very young, and so she lived with her aunt and uncle, and then she would travel to her father's apartment on weekends and stay with him. And the whole crux of the story pretty much is her relationship with her father, which did not start out well at all. He had high expectations for her in terms of getting a steady job with a pension and so forth. And she had other ideas and got a job as, I think it was a clerk typist or receptionist with NBC in New York, and her offices were across the hall from Johnny Carson's office, and she used to see him in the halls all the time and what have you. She worked her way up and I think became a producer, associate producer, and then she made the jump to come out here and worked for several different studios in some very high-powered positions. Her concentration was in soap operas and game shows. And she mentioned that, I think his name was Fred Silverman, an executive with one of the major studios, was going to cancel, what is that show that comes on at 7 o'clock? Not Jeopardy, with Pat Sajak.
Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah. Going like this, and I should have known. Wheel of Fortune. And she badgered him for 3 weeks. This was before Pat and Vanna were on the show, but she said you can't cancel that. People like it, and so she was successful in talking him out of canceling it, and the rest is history, pretty much. So the story evolves with her relationship with her dad. He developed cancer, was very sick. She went to New York, and then she brought him back out here to live with her. And their relationship improves slowly over time. And at the end, it was a really close relationship, which was good to see. The writing is good. One issue that I had that I pointed out to her was she would sometimes start new indented lines for either thoughts or narrative or even dialogue. And I pointed out that every time you indent a line, it's a new paragraph. And I thought that she could continue the original paragraph, just tag on these things. So I marked up the first 50 pages pretty good, but she said that she would work on that. And I thought she did a great job. It was a very intriguing story, and even though he passed away, it was still a happy ending because they repaired their relationship.
Thank you, Doug. That was excellent.
I'm sorry, who is the author, please?
Noreen Conlon.
And she's part of the club?
Yes.
I don't think she's here today, but
she had to go to the doctor.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not allowed.
Yeah.
No, thank you, because to me, it's a very interesting story. I mean, I don't know how old she is, but I can make an educated guess based on what you're telling me with the time period she grew up in, and it's a story of when obviously career choices were limited for women, and she had a struggle and ended up doing quite well notwithstanding that. So. And yes, I laughed when you mentioned Fred Silverman because he was the president of NBC. And as we all know, even the best of executives make some bad choices. So the fact that she helped save Wheel of Fortune goes to show that, as we all know, it became a very lucrative show. So for that alone, pardon me?
I'm sorry, interrupt. She saved a fortune. She made a fortune for a lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
20%.
But I'm just saying, in terms of, when you do these books, if she's thinking of doing anything commercial, you have to think, what's the hook? I mean, is there a hook? And I think she has a couple of potential hooks here. So yeah, I would encourage her to continue with it. I mean, I don't know whether she's doing this again for personal reasons, or whether she's going to take a stab at doing something on a bigger level. And as we all know, that's always a crapshoot. But I think, having said that, because she has in part number one, as they say, bold-faced names, that's part of this, and because people love celebrities and people love entertainment, and again, she has a story of where she's coming up from the bottom rungs and climbing her way up. there are possibilities here.
Yeah, I meant to mention that the last several years, she had left the studios and formed her own production company. And they focused on creating or developing ideas for new game shows. That was the niche that she was involved with. And she had a crew of about, I guess, 6 or 7 people that had various skills, and they formed a team and worked together and so forth. So very interesting life story.
I'm sorry, and what's her last name again?
Me?
Her last name.
Her Conlin, I believe, right?
Conlin, okay.
Conlin.
Right, right.
All right, thank you.
Very interesting. Anyone else? I hear Nana's stories.
I'd like to ask Doug a question if I could.
Go ahead.
You mentioned you marked up, was it the beginning or a part of the story? Were you editing the book for her?
I didn't think I was, but I think I ended up editing it.
Yeah, okay. And the name of the book is?
I don't recall. And I gave it back to
Okay,
her.
well.
As soon as she publishes, I'll send out a notice.
Yeah, okay, good. But it's obviously not published yet.
Right.
No. It was
Yeah,
a working
okay.
draft.
Yeah, I just want to make one comment or maybe ask a question, but we all have issues with editing, and self-editing is the most difficult thing in the world. I think, Peggy, you may have mentioned got to go over it a zillion times or something like that. Make sure you, and really that's it, because you can always find some nit in there somewhere.
Always.
And I wonder if any of you have ever done this, because I've discovered something while I was doing this, the numerous readings of the novel, using a audio read of the book. In other words, if in Word, if you go to review on your tool and then go over and over to the right hand side of the toolbar, hit play, and then it has a very, very good digital read of the story in terms of being an audio book. You can turn the Word document into an audio book, and you would be amazed at how many things you pick up by listening to it as you read along with it. There's things in there that you never see that you hear, and I picked up so many errors just by listening to the digital feature on Word to read the story back to me.
That's an excellent tip. And in fact, for our Village Stories team, we should do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to go to Word to do it, though.
Oh,
Alan, can you tell us again where you find that in Word?
Well, it may depend on which issue of Word you have. If it's a fairly late, if you got a fairly late computer, it'll be in there. But anyway, if you go to the toolbar up in the top,
right,
you have all the. So go to over where it says review.
Yes.
Okay. Click on that, and then what'll pop up is all the features that you have on there. Oh,
I see. It's read aloud. It says read aloud.
Yep.
Yeah, on the left-hand side.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's what it. Yeah.
That's a great
because once you do it,
then
it pops up right at the top right-hand corner of your document. It has the playback, the pause and play and fast forward and back and so on, features just of an ordinary audio machine.
Right.
So but you don't need that. You can just hit audio or play aloud but using the tools there for pause is very handy.
Yeah.
That's an excellent idea. Thanks.
Talking about editing, Alan, since you brought it up, I paid a lot of money on my last book for editing, and it was 2 pieces to it. The first was a line edit, and then a different editor did a copy edit, and it was just invaluable. They challenged me and made me rethink things, and I changed a lot of things based on their comments. Some I didn't agree with, and I didn't change, but having other eyes look at the manuscript really helps, because you're right, you do miss things, and even on a reread, you still miss things. So having somebody else take a look at it is really, I think, and somebody who's an experienced editor knows how to approach it, I think is really valuable.
Yeah, but the problem I have with that, I'm not going to spend a lot of money on a book that probably nobody's ever going to buy. That's the way I look at it. Until I think maybe that's why I spent so much time trying to get it right myself, because I know that if you start paying for it by the word or by the hour, editing can be pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say, to me, there are a couple different types of editing, and I would agree with Alan that unless you have something that you're shooting for commercial possibilities and you have real confidence in it, I'm not sure I would pay anyone to copy or line edit a book that you're just basically doing for family or friends or possibly a smaller extended circle. Because I mean, then again, of course, if you have a lot of money and it doesn't matter, that's obviously your choice. But a general type of editing, I just wanted to say that doesn't cost anything, is if you're doing any kind of work, and obviously you as the author, you're just so close to it, no matter if it's a memoir or whether it's a novel you're working on or a collection of short stories. But if you share it with, I'm talking about a draft of the manuscript, with some family members and friends who have first of all, they have to have interest in the subject matter, but to get feedback and not to ask what is it that they like, but bring it on. What don't you like? What do you dislike? And I'm not saying you should abide by any one person's opinion, because obviously it's your book, and 5 different people could write a story 5 different ways. But if you share something and it turns out that 4 different people have the same exact critique of one particular section or of one particular character, and again, I'm not saying they're all 100% right, but that is something that should make you really rethink or reevaluate or take a close look, because something is not working in a way that you had intended. So what I'm suggesting obviously wouldn't cost you anything, and it's a common technique that people use, established writers I'm talking about, where people, I'm talking about even from my experience in working on plays, on films, is that, with rough cuts, you share it with people to get their opinion. And again, it's not that you live and die by that opinion, but if you're hearing the same thing from a group of people, then you have a real potential problem that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if I had 4 or 5 good reviews, you'd say maybe I should take this more seriously, and maybe it does have commercial value.
True.
So, yeah.
I've read about 20 books for people, and it's very enjoyable, but also time consuming. Like you see, I just finished Tibet Express. Next, I'm reading John Perkins' Brat. So I'm always reading our members' books.
Oh.
By the way, I want to introduce a new member, Jim Gibson. Are you here, Jim?
He was at the beginning. I don't see him now.
And he was there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He says he is basically an artist, but because of the pandemic, he has become a writer. So good luck. Also, I have Rama Gopal loaned me 7 more books. So these are collector's items, $25. They're beautiful gifts. Really, you can't find a better gift. In fact, it was my son's birthday yesterday, and I gave him one of these books. Also, next month is Theresa Keegan. And for those of you not familiar with her, she does a writing prompt. So we'll all be writing next month. It's a lot of fun. She gives us the idea, she prompts us, and you might even come up with your story for Village Stories. So you'll enjoy next month with Theresa Keegan. April, I don't have anything yet, but I have ideas. And May is Daniela Walsh, who wrote the story for the Globe, and she's going to talk about writing from the point of view of media. So I thought we should all find out about that, because how do we get on the front page?
Well, Peggy knows how to write a mean story.
Oh, thank you.
Not mean-spirited, no way.
Just mean. So do you, Sunshine. Thank you. So any other comments?
Yeah, I have a comment with back to the editing that Fred and Alan addressed. I think I've shared with you my great-grandmother's story that I received a 580-page manuscript where she writes in this rambling stream of consciousness format. And while I've identified the themes, and while I can go in there and I can do the line item editing for grammar, spelling, punctuation, paragraphing, etc., I get the gist of what she's trying to relay, but formatting it into a readable story has been a huge challenge. And after much deliberation, my cousin and I and 2 other distant family members did decide to bite the bullet and pay an editor to make sense of this document. And it is currently in his hands. We haven't heard from him in a little while, knowing that he's very busy and I don't want to bug him about it, but it is such a compelling story. Now, granted, maybe I'm a little prejudiced because she is my great-grandmother, and I was alive for the first 8 years of my life. She was still alive. So, you know, I think, at least in my case, there came a point where I needed to bite the bullets and, you know, pay somebody to make sense of this and put it into a sequential, logical fashion. Now, am I going to recoup that money in the end? Probably not. But I have put a Facebook fundraiser, and family has given Christmas presents in money. My stimulus check went in there. So, you know, we've raised about half of the funds that we needed. So where there's a will, there's a way. When you really need to have an expert make something of a treasure, and that's what this is a treasure. And I want my family, extended and immediate family, to be able to read this story and know and understand what she was doing and why.
And I just want to say, yes, and Nancy and I have had a couple phone calls about this, and I fully understand what Nancy is doing here. And to me, it is kind of a different situation than the general situations I was talking about. Because yes, this is obviously probably going to be just for your family, but it's something very important to all of you. And it's a massive original journal that was in very difficult form to kind of digest. So I understand exactly why you're doing it. And you know, all I've been suggesting to Nancy, which I know Sunshine and others have suggested in the past, that if you're going to bring people in, obviously just, I guess, number one, get references, but get competitive, I guess what you would call as competitive quotes or bids, just to make sure that someone is not way out of line with whatever else might be out there.
Right.
Yes, and I do want to thank each and every one of you who have shared your expertise with me, because it's been very valuable, and I may not be done with you yet.
So
I hope that's a promise, not a threat.
Well, it is a promise. It's definitely a promise.
of
No,
course,
I think you are wonderful, all of you in here who have offered your time and your opinions, and I look to you as experts, because I haven't even published my own memoir. I put that on hold when I came across Nanny's story, and so, you know, some of you that are talking about your own memoir, I even made a note here, get back at it. And I'm going to do that. So actually, I've submitted my own memoir is a series of vignettes, and I have submitted one of them for the Village Stories 2021. So
Cool.
right.
Let me say something about memoirs. One of the things that was said, that it's just for family. Well, actually, ends up being for family and friends. Anybody who knows you really can enjoy the stories that are in it. So it's for your family and for your friends. And in fact, after I had edited it and re-edited and asked someone else to read it, I did go to Upwork and paid. I mean, you make an offer. And so I offered $100 for somebody to edit my book, and they did a nice job. So, you know, I could have offered $50. I maybe would have gotten better, but I don't know.
That's a good hint. Upworks?
Upwork.
Upwork.
One, and it's in the document that I shared.
yes, I remember seeing it.
Yeah.
And you're right about friends, because I have had friends make donations on Facebook fundraiser that are not part of my family, but they were compelled by the little snippets that I put in there. I try and once a month add something and add a picture of my great grandmother or some of the babies that she cared for. And, you know, I'm still getting donations, but a lot of it is from friends. So,
if I could add to that, I think you're absolutely right. In fact, I got more favorable response from friends than I did from family. The family took some of it maybe too seriously or something. My son didn't think he was in it enough. He wanted it to be more about him. I think my daughter didn't like being reminded of how badly I treated her wedding. And it got me in more damn trouble. I'm hoping that my great grandchildren will be far distant enough to appreciate.
Alan, you've given me the best laugh I've had all week. I enjoyed that.
But talking about what Alan said in Sunshine, hey, if you want something to read, choose one of our books. Get on Amazon and check out our books. That's why we're doing this. So if you got a few extra dollars, some extra time, there couldn't be a better time to read than now. So help us out here.
I just wanted to make a comment for Nancy on memoirs. You may have heard about a recent movie and book that have come out called Hillbilly Elegy. And I saw the movie first and just
What is it? What is the name again?
Hillbilly Elegy.
I saw that.
And I just finished reading the book, and he told the story of his life, and it was enormously successful so far anyway. So that might be something you could read if you read the book to get an idea of how he structured it, and might give you some thoughts.
Great, thanks.
That's a good point.
I'll take any and all suggestions possible.
Doug got a movie offer, right, Doug? And so
I turned it down.
But they both turned it down. And sometime we have to discuss why.
Mm-hmm. That's fine. I'd be happy to.
Yeah, because a lot of us think our book would make a good movie. And so, yeah, Doug, help. In fact, when I wrote my La La Land, I sent it to Disney. And their answer was, we don't read anything that's not by a proven author, preferably dead.
Oh.
I was going to say, to get anything into the hands typically of a producer, any reputable or established producer, typically you do need an agent. I mean, I'm surprised you even got a response of any kind from Disney, because it just typically, if you try to send in as John or Jane Q Public, it's going to just go tossed in the trash. They won't open anything because they never want to be accused. They never want to be accused of having violated anyone's copyrights or but again, everyone needs to keep in mind, as much as you think your story is great, and I'm not saying people's stories aren't really good, to get to that stage where someone wants to make it into a movie, there's so many people out there competing for that. And I think people just need to be realistic in their goals. That's all. And again, I applaud anyone who goes to the effort of finishing that book, whatever it is, whether it's a novel or memoir. And I'm not in any way trying to denigrate if someone writes for family and or friends, because that's an accomplishment in itself. But people just need to try to be realistic in their goals. That's all.
And I tried. I took all the time to click my notes in one by one to a song that I wrote, and I sent it to Dolly Parton. I did get a reply saying, "We do not accept anything," and they sent it all back.
I did too. Well, I sent my song too.
Yeah, in terms of books, any publisher, they're not only, well, you'd be lucky to have one look at it, but they want authors not only that are bestsellers, but guaranteed that they're going to be writing more. In other words, a one-time writer, a one-time author is not enough for them. They'll put you to work at writing the next one and the next one and the next one, because that's where they make their money. And the other problem is there's so many scammers out there today. For every person that, every legitimate firm that might be interested, there's going to be 1,000 scammers trying to rip you off.
And it turns out, even when you have an agent, you have to do all of the promo. So
yes, I can tell you that I've been dealing with an author, someone I met, not that I'm, been hired by him, but it's just someone I met who's has a recent book that's come out about my beloved New York Knicks. That's how I met him. But it's come from an established publishing company. But again, the burden is largely on the author to do a lot of the promotion. And I'm including, what this author has had to do, which is a lot of social media, via Twitter, Facebook, reaching out to podcasts through his connections, because he wrote for he wrote for an online publication. So, I mean, first of all, it's great that he got a book deal with an established publisher, and it was published. But again, a lot of that responsibility ultimately still lies with the author. So even if you get to that point, you still have to be prepared and to, and in theory, be adept with social media.
And listening to Fred, I've been asking Fred to find someone to explain legalese regarding publishing. So I think that would be an interesting subject.
Yes, and as Peggy knows, I did reach out. I mean, because I've dealt with copyright issues in creative projects that I worked on, and I do have some knowledge, but a little knowledge can be a dangerous thing, right? So I would not want to be the person to giving the lecture, but I did reach out to a former professor of mine who's a copyright law expert, but unfortunately, I could not get him to do it. But if anyone here, it seems that other club events I've been to, there seem to be some connections with UC Irvine. If anyone here has connections with UC Irvine and the law school there, that maybe we could get a professor there who knows about copyright law to do a Zoom event with us.
I actually took a copyright class that was sponsored by that was taught by an editor of a company called Glory Bound Publishing, and she's based in Arizona, Olivet, I think, University. I'm not sure that I would highly recommend her, because what she did is she took us through the copyright law website and showed us how to fill out the form. But whether or not she has the legal background and so forth, but that was pretty basic. Another comment that I wanted to make is that I would love to have a meeting, Peggy, on how to market our own books. What various sources. Now, Fred just mentioned, social media, podcasts, and so forth. But, any marketing suggestions, I think that would be great.
I think you're right. Excellent idea. So keep your eyes open and ears open for attorneys and publishers and marketing experts to guide us. Susie Schaefer is pretty much into this market, so she can probably help. She helped Doug a lot. Doug Sainsbury, right, Doug?
No, she didn't. She helped Scott.
Oh, Scott. Okay.
Yeah, I did a free consultation with her, and got some questions answered and so forth. And she has different avenues of directions that you can go. So.
Speaking of going, if I could just jump in, I've got to take my wife shopping. So if it's all right, I mean, I do appreciate the opportunity to share some of my stuff with you, and I learned a lot today. So nice talking to you all, and we'll see you again sometime. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And good luck. Good luck.
Thanks a lot.
You'll save some
Stay
money if we
tuned,
keep
everybody,
getting-
for that email that will be coming out within the next few days.
Thank you, everybody. And start writing your stories. This will no doubt be the best village stories ever.
Love it.
All right, thanks,
All right,
everybody.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Adios.